We're sold a story about how to do well in life.
Go to university and work hard.
Persistent hard work.
Through hard work.
If you get a good degree from one of the best universities, you can make it to the top. Turns out that's a bit of a lie.
You have to sort of play the game.
So what are the rules of the game?
Uni's done, you know. It's the end. Can you imagine? Oh, mate, 3 years.
Elvis is from East London. He's studying political economy at Birmingham. He wants to be a city boy, making big bucks in the world of high finance.
When you drive up the A13 towards town, towards London, you drive past Canary Wharf and you look at the buildings, and because you don't see them in your area, you're like, wow. My mum used to work in Morgan Stanley. She used to like clean the offices late at night, and she used to come back and talk about how she saw like these big bankers walking around and that. She said, "Oh, Elvis, why don't you go and see if you can get a job there?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll try."
Sam Friedman is literally the Don when it comes to the link between class and top jobs.
In our data nationally, what we can see is that about a third of the population come from working class backgrounds, but about 10% of that group will make it into elite occupations.
10% of working class people will make it into elite occupations?
Yeah. And even when those from working class backgrounds make it into Britain's top professions, they go on to earn on average 16% less than their colleagues from more privileged backgrounds. Really, this is sort of a fairly stark rejoinder to notions of meritocracy in this country.
Well, for most of them, whether you're talking law, banking or consultancy, you need a place on what they call a graduate scheme. Most of the big companies run these graduate training programs to develop their leaders of the future. And the competition for places is ferocious.
Firms look at, more than your degree. They look at more than your course, more than the uni you went to. You have to sort of play the game, and if you don't know how, it can be difficult for you to get into certain roles. If I got the job, I'd be really, really excited, really proud. But most of all, it would prove to me that if you do try hard and you do work hard, you will be successful. I'm just happy to be here on time.
To get an idea of Elvis's chances, I headed to Royal Holloway University to meet Dr. Louise Ashley. She spent the last few years trying to understand what city recruiters are really looking for.
Often within the city, if we're talking to hiring managers, they'll summarise what we mean with the word polish. So they'll be looking for candidates who they believe are particularly polished in the way in which they present. Now, that can be quite an ambiguous term, but if we break it down, it can include things like accent, maybe mannerisms, maybe behaviour, also dress, those kind of things that can present or denote middle or upper class status.
I caught up with him to find out if he'd landed the job.
But unfortunately, I didn't get the role. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What was the job?
It was a management consulting role.
What did they tell you about why you didn't get it?
We had a case study to sort of pick out the errors in that document. So I categorized 4 categories, and they said that they liked the way I thought about it. But when under pressure, they were worried that I couldn't deliver. And a lot of it is down, sometimes you just remember the candidate and think, okay, I like this guy, we have things in common, he reminds me of myself, I'll take him on. But that's the problem comes from, because no one's reminded of me when they look at me, no one thinks about themselves.
Let's face it, there aren't that many people who look and sound like him earning the big bucks in the city. Of course, all the city people we spoke to bang the drum for diversity. But what does that mean in practice? To get to the truth, I visited an independent recruiter.
Hi.
Suzie.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Very, very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having us over.
Suzie Fagan recruits graduates into mostly financial firms.
What's the sort of things you hear clients say in terms of what they're looking for?
Well, there's a lot, actually. I mean, most of the time they won't actually kind of come out and tell us. You know, you can have 2 CVs exactly the same. So I've got a really, really lovely girl, beautiful, very well presented, but very kind of Essexy in her accent. I can't get her a job for love nor money, just because as soon as people meet her, she's not necessarily the person that they want to kind of pick up the phone to their kind of high-end clients. You know, they may say, well, she's not polished enough, or they may even slightly change what they're looking for.
Are there certain people that you just don't bother sending to an interview at certain places because you just think they don't talk in the right way?
Yeah, absolutely, which is really sad, but...
For Elvis, things were on the up. He'd landed a job at Santander Bank. Not quite in the city of London, but 2 hours drive away in Milton Keynes.
Alberto, I'm Elvis. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm Elvis. Nice to meet you. Good to see you. Long time. You made it. Yeah. You got a job, man. It's been a long journey, but yeah.
How you feeling?
I'm grateful. I'm happy.
So working class kids can make it, but the odds are stacked against them and they have to work so much harder. In a lot of elite professions, prejudice about class goes completely unchallenged, because for all the talk of diversity and inclusion, class is the last barrier. Why is that? Maybe it's because it's harder to see and define. Maybe it's because working class kids don't have a lobby like other minorities do. And maybe it's because it's still the most deeply rooted superstition in Britain today that if you sound posh, you must be clever. Do you really want to live in a country like that? I don't.